It's a little after 9:15. I woke up early enough before my alarm to actually sit down for breakfast if I wanted to, and I decided to do that because I am out of snacks. I may take a break in the afternoon to pick up some basics. We'll see. Since I'm already going to be out tomorrow for socializing with readings, and also there's a friend from my undergraduate days that's going to be meeting up with me, and we're going to grab lunch, so I may take that opportunity to do errands at the same time and just focus on work today. I predict that today is going to be incredibly creatively productive because the framework of stuff that I did yesterday to set up the piece really started a momentum, and I can still feel that momentum buzzing. So it's a good amount of work on Friends Not Foes is going to happen today. Oh, I also wanted to say that I was looking at the weather forecast over the next week to try to decide when the next time I was going to try to capture the freight train at night. And I think that the next time that I'm going to do it is next Thursday. It's Friday today, so I've got a little bit less than a week to before I record that again. I also decided, because the stuff that I got for Fast-Paced World and also Friends Not Foes relies heavily upon some stuff I got from Freesound, that I would take some of the field recordings that I've done here, which is some frogs and some freight train stuff, and put it on Freesound myself and give back a little bit to the community. I just thought that I'd highlight something structurally that I'm doing with this stuff. This is Fast-Paced World. This is what the opening to that one sounds like. And if you notice, the footsteps are not the only thing that's going on background-wise. The other thing that's happening is some road noise, distant road noise that came from one of the recordings of the vehicles that were really close. Let me solo that. Now, for the second movement for Friends Not Foes, something that I'm doing is I'm still using and starting it the same way with the same footstep sounds. But because the track is more about nature as opposed to manufactured sounds through vehicles, then I wanted the ambient sound to also be different. So I grabbed a new sample that is nature sounds in the background. So when you add the footsteps into that, then that creates that link that I wanted to have between all the movements. But because the ambient sound is different, then it helps to convey how the subject matter, the character of it, is so different from the first movement. Chickpeas in my lunch today. That looks like a sweet potato something, which is a negative. But I also have a brownie, and that's a positive. It's a pretty nice afternoon out, so I thought I'd take advantage of my mobility to find a place outside to sit and do some work, or maybe stand and do some work, because I was also getting tired of just physically sitting. More proof that I need to get one of those sitting/standing hydraulic desks for our house. This works pretty well. Residence over on that side. Freight train tracks behind me. It's about 3 o'clock. I've got maybe about 4 minutes worth of a rough opening to this movement. It's turning out a little bit longer than I thought. There's some pacing issues I need to work out between the introductory material of just the B sounds versus when the ostinato comes in and the rhythmic stuff comes in. If you want a bit of a taste, There's something not quite right about the shape of where I'm at right now. It's possible I'm not really thinking about it the right way, because the first movement, the musical material came directly from the sounds. And because this is coming from synthesized stuff that meshes with the B sounds, and it's not the B sounds themselves that's creating the rhythm and the musical material in that way, that it feels like the two parts are not the most related to each other as directly as I want. And some of that, I think, could be just the journey of how I bring those two things together could be a little more gradual. But I also don't necessarily want to draw out the stuff that's happening in the beginning, nor sneak the rhythm in. The bass and the swarms are going to be associated with each other. I think that I'm going to do some granular stuff, like start the swarms very straightforward, but then as you get used to that, then I'm going to turn the swarms into grains and start to mess with the form of that a little bit. So there's a lot of stuff still to mine, and maybe I'm just thinking a little bit too soon about where all of it is going to land, but it's just what's running through my head as I listen to this and tweak it a little bit here and there and come up with that first 3 minutes 45 seconds in what's going on. Could maybe introduce snippets of that rhythm before establishing it as a full groove. Hi, dear. Hi. Oh. Bye, dear. It's about 9 o'clock, and I don't know why, but I suddenly just got really exhausted. I've tried to do some work, but and I've done a little bit with Live and Reaper to do some modifying of some of the work that I did today, and then also looking a little bit into some of Live's granular capabilities, but I'm not really making a lot of headway. So I think I'm just going to listen to my body and my brain and call it a little bit early. And I don't know, either go back to the room and actually go to sleep early, or just putz around and relax, either talking to people that are over there or just go to my room and hermit. Still made a lot of great progress today, so I'm not mad about ending early. And hopefully tomorrow I'll be nice and fresh. It's about 9:30. It's rainy. It's supposed to rain all day. Morning deer hanging out to complement the nighttime deer I had last night. Hi. Hi there. Aren't you gorgeous? Today was going to be a bit of a wash because I had a friend from my undergraduate days I was going to drive down, but that unfortunately had to be canceled. I'm actually starting to think that based on the kind of time that I've been able to have here, that the Friends Not Foes might actually get done earlier than the entirety of this residency. Well, if that's the case, maybe I'll get a jump on movement 3. There's a work by Plaid that I admire a great deal, where the large form is this 6/4 groove, but the ostinato background is in 7/8, and then there's also this rhythmic ostinato that's in 5. So there's this layered 6/7/5 thing going on throughout the work, which I find very compelling. I think that there's aspects of that sort of personality that I want to bring into this piece, So it's a matter of when is the appropriate time to start shifting, because I don't think I want to get rid of the stuff that I've done already and the structure that I've created that is the more regular expected 4/4 thing. As the pitches and tones start to distort and become more granular and also square and sawtooth wavy, which is where I think this is heading, that it also starts to become more unstable in terms of its overall time structure and rhythmic structure. Somehow I looked up and it was suddenly 3 hours later, and I'm in the middle of a puzzle in trying to set up a 5/8 hemiola over this stuff that feels like it's coming in naturally as opposed to interruptive, and also trying to figure out how to go from there. So I don't know if I'm going to keep this, but just to give you an idea of where I started and where I'm getting to. If you noticed at all, the modified version of this original takes the rhythm and grains it a little bit. So it starts off being pretty stable, but then it turns into more of an abstract rain cloud. The other thing that I haven't introduced in yet, because it's going to happen when the low notes come in, is I took the B sample. Let me find the original. I think it's this one. And I've started messing around with putting that into a grain cloud, which has a bunch of different settings relating to, say, grain size, and also where in position I want to grab the grains from, which I could change over time. There's how far left to the right the grain can scan, or if it's coming from the same spot, or is it allowed to stray. And then other sorts of settings. I've been working for about 4 hours straight on this, so I'm going to take a long break and go out for a walk for a little bit. This is a sculpture called Helios that was created by Craig Pleasance, who is the husband who used to work here with his wife Sheila, who is the one that's retiring. Pretty neat. For a rainy day, it's actually pretty pleasant out. It's not raining too hard right now. It's just more like a mist, a light rain, and the temperature is pretty decent. The worst thing is just it being in the grass and having it be muddy. I have rain boots back in my residence, but I didn't put them on. I just have my regular shoes on. It's a little after 4:30. Heading back to the residence so I can shower and get ready to travel to the reading this evening. Since I last did an update, I spent a lot of time on this 5/8 hemiola section. I can't decide if I like it or if I hate it, partially because of the sound I'm using / created to do it. It's very different in character to most of the other sounds that have happened And it's at a point where I'm not sure if I'm ready to have that striking timbre that it currently is. I tried substituting with a few other instruments. None of them were satisfying, but I might just have to tweak a little further in order to get to where I want, or I need to abandon the idea in favor of something different. It's a good time for me to take a step away from it, come back to it either tonight or tomorrow, and attack it with fresh ears. So at home all the time, it's not unusual for me to have some half-drinking LaCroix that I haven't finished, and I'll just pick it up at some point later, hours, a day later, and just finish it off. Here, I'm covering up any of my unfinished LaCroix because, particularly in the studio, I don't want the stink bugs or ladybugs to be tempted to get in it and suddenly be surprised by accidentally drinking and swallowing stink bugs or ladybugs. So it's fairly common for me to brainstorm in the shower, and while I was in the shower here with Friends Not Foes that I've been working on so fresh in my brain, I think I figured out where I'm going to go with the entire piece in a way that I hadn't figured out before. There's a part of me that wants to go back and just do it now, but I need to go and support my fellow creatives, so I'm going to go do that. What if the last movement used sounds from the first three movements together? Does that create a good finale? It's about 10:30. Just got done hanging out with a bunch of the fellows out in the living room area for about an hour, just talking about lots of random things. But I wanted to close out the day talking about the reading that I went to, where four of the fellows, Susanna, Quincy, Cynthia, and Layla, did readings in this cool little coffee shop bar / food place called Rapunzel's. It started off as a cafe, but eventually opened up to music and like readings in order to fill a void that the community here didn't have, because if they wanted to get it, they would have to have gone to Charlottesville. Most of the audience were other VCCA fellows, but there were a few people there that were locals. And one of the locals, I got a chance to talk to this woman who started her band with her husband because of this coffee shop. They did their first gig and they're still playing 15 plus years later because of the local following that they have with this coffee shop. And it was really cool to talk to her, to get to know the place and the people, but also the readings themselves were fantastic. Like every person who did a reading, all their stuff was very different from each other. They all had their own individual personality. And you could tell the personalities that came out, that their personalities were really inherent in their work. And the imagery that came from the stuff they were reading was incredibly vivid. So I wanted to make sure that I closed out the evening mentioning just how special that event was. The other thing I wanted to say was that earlier while I was driving, I had the thought of having the fourth movement be a compilation of the first three. And while I think it's a cool idea to write a piece that combines those things, I don't know that I actually want that fourth movement to be that, because I want to make sure that I'm more diverse with the kind of sonic universes and landscapes I'm trying to create. And only doing three, especially with two that are very similar to each other, doesn't feel right. I may opt to write a sister piece, or, now that I'm thinking about it now, if there's a way to maybe have a coda, like have most of the fourth movement be about exploring the sonic landscape, but then maybe towards the end, I could find a way to bring back the rest of the material, then maybe I could pull that off, depending on whether it feels like it would do justice to the Sonic universe that I'm creating. Tomorrow is Sunday, and we'll be very close to the halfway point of me being here, which is wild. I think that's it.